All right. You tell I've been, I spent a whole bunch of time working on this. This is that Homelite VI-130. After that last video, I was like, she just got personality. We should send it. But then after a couple of hours, it was eating at me. I was like, no, I can't do that. So I brought it in and I started working on it. And I am 2 days into this process of working on it. So let me kind of go over this with you because I made some changes and everything. And I'll tell you what I figured out, I feel like an idiot. This is when you truly feel like an idiot. But I got her. So here she is, Homelite VI-130. I found a bar plate for it, so our oiler should work fine. And I pulled off that muffler. So this is the muffler we were running, a little homemade jobby, okay? I pulled it off, and I remember when Justin was first talking to me about this, he was like, man, do you have any stack mufflers for it? And I was like, no, I don't. Well, guess what? It's been like a year and a half, or it's been 2 years. I found them a stack. And this one is different than what you might be used to seeing. This one came off an XL101. So it actually looks a little better than the other stack mufflers you might be used to seeing. So he's now got a stack muffler on there. What else? So during the whole process, working on this thing, it just felt like a horrible carburetor issue. Just impossible to tune. And what it was, it's one of those aftermarket 266 style carburetors that I put on it. Well, I ended up pulling it off. I found a genuine Tillotson out of my stash, but the Tillotson was in rough shape. So I had to do a lot of work to it to get it fixed up. It took like 3 carburetors of parts to get it working. I had to steal the diaphragm out of that 266 carburetor for the metering side. And in fact, I got it off. This is that 266 style carburetor. I discovered their metering levers are not done correctly. So they're like a steady ramp. Where genuine Tillotsons, they kind of come out, they come up, and then flatten out again. Well, this one is just like a steady flat piece of steel, so it's just a ramp. And because of that ramp shape and the way the diaphragm hits it flat on, it just doesn't seem to want to operate as well as the Tillotsons do because they come up and they flatten out. So it's nice flat surface. That's one of the differences I found between the Chinese clones and a genuine one. We got a genuine Tillotson in it though, stole parts. I've been going over it and over and over it, and I could not get it to pump fuel. It was refusing to pump fuel. So I went through 2 or 3 pump diaphragms. None of them would pump fuel. So I pulled the entire intake apart, went through every crevice, and I was like, what if this thing has a blocked impulse? So that's kind of what I did. I went through the whole thing. And still wouldn't pump fuel. So then I was like, okay, what if this is leaking air? Because if you'll notice here, I had to pull the inlet port off of this 266 carb, and I had to steal it off of there and put it on this Tillotson. And when I put it on there, it wasn't as tight as I would prefer it to be. So I ended up pulling it back out, taking that thing off, cleaning it up really good, and JB welding it in place. But of course I had to wait overnight for that to dry to even test it. So that's kind of brings you into today. So today I tried it, still nothing. Pulled the diaphragm stuff back out. I was going through the carb, but just nothing made sense. I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and take a look at this fuel line. The fuel line was brand new. Fuel line, fuel filter, everything was brand new. I pulled it out, and this is what I found. Yeah, that's not going to pull fuel. So 2 days of headaches. 2 days of headaches because of that. Ah. In fact, we've been screwing with this saw for how long? It was probably that issue the whole time. It looks like the chain might have popped off and took it out. That's what it looks like. It's pretty gnarly looking. So, whenever I'm not the one who put that fuel line in there, it came like that. I mean, I have fuel line here, and that size that it came with is not a size that I have. In case you're wondering, my low battery, I'm less than 20%. That thing came up. So hopefully we can get this video done. But yeah, that's not a size of fuel line that I have. Like, this is the size of fuel line that was on it. And you can see the inside hole and all that stuff. This is what I use for them. Okay, can you see the difference? So this is what I use. This is too big. It doesn't hold very well on your fuel filters. It doesn't hold very well at your carburetor, you know what I mean? The inside hole is a little too big. The reason people like to use that one is because the outside diameter, where the fuel line goes through the fuel tank, the outside diameter is big enough that it won't let fuel leak. And by using the smaller one, you have a gap that fuel will leak. So I have, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I went to mastercar.com and I bought like 100 of these grommets. These are the grommets you need for those holes. So I went ahead and fixed it all up. And what do you know? This all runs. In fact, I just started it here, and I think this is the best it's ever ran. Like, it runs exactly the way I would expect it to run. So we're going to take it out here. We're going to make some cuts. And hopefully, this is it. From now on, we just get to run and make firewood. Now, one little tip here. I don't know if I've ever, well, I've talked about this in the past. These air filters do not seal up properly around this edge, especially around here. You stick that air filter on there, it will not seal up properly. You'll pull it off and this whole freaking thing will be full of sawdust. So what you do is you take a piece of Scotch-Brite and you cut it out like so. And you stick it in, sandwich it in there below your air filter, okay? That will help fix a lot of that problem. It'll take care of most of it. So if you have any of these Homelites like this, do that. That is one thing you definitely got to do in order to keep it from sucking sawdust. I've got video, we actually caught it on video, slow motion and everything, where you could see the sawdust coming out of the clutch cover and literally getting sucked right down in that hole, and then the saw blew up. Got it on video. So, you know what I mean? I've got it on video. You can search for it if you want. The video is going to be really old, but it does exist. A few people out there have seen it, and they're still on the channel watching videos, so they probably remember what I'm talking about. Now, you could just take my word and do this modification. I mean, how much does it cost for a piece of Scotch-Brite? You know what I mean? Do it. You won't regret it. Now, she goes on pretty tight at first. After you do it for a little while, she kind of flattens down. You know what I mean? I shouldn't put that too tight, though. We're going to have some tuning to do. I can get to the high and low jets, but the idle jet, the actual idle adjustment screw is under the air filter. So, yeah, we're going to have to get into that. But what do you say? We go out here, we make some cuts. There's a little bit of rain coming down. It's just sprinkles. So let's make some cuts and see how she runs now. I got a feeling this is it. We just defeated all of our, what would you call it? We defeated the monster, or the animal, or whatever you want to call it. We won. Victory. Hopefully we're victorious on this, and we finally got it. So I have to say, run with it a few times and get it back to Justin. So let's see how this goes. Well, I mean, you fix one problem and another one arises, right? That's an intermittent spark, what you were seeing there. That sputtering sound. And that's a Husqvarna 50 coil that I put on it. And it's a brand new coil. So we'll take a look. Maybe it's just a spark plug. Maybe the coil, maybe I didn't get the mount very well on the coil, and the gap might be too, you know what I mean, trying to walk and loosen up on me or something, you know, making the gap too big. But there we go. Once I fix that intermittent spark, it's probably something stupid though. Probably a spark plug, or the coil's just not, it's walking around on me or something, you know what I mean? My homemade mount may not be perfect. But other than that, it's all running exactly the way I thought it should. I think all of our carb issues are fixed. Now, I am still getting air up the fuel line. When I had the air cover off, I could see air bubbles making up the fuel line. Maybe the fuel filter didn't get down as deep as I thought it did. Maybe I'll just stick a longer fuel line in it and shove that sucker down a little further, or try. I'll see, I'll double check, but I think we're definitely on the right track now. The carburetor itself is behaving exactly the way it should now. So all the carburetor issues I've been fighting are fixed. All that's good. So now we got to fix that intermittent spark and figure out why I'm getting air bubbles up the fuel line. Oiler is working, so you know what I mean. We got some of the issues fixed, and we found some new ones, and back to the drawing board. That's the way this all's been from day one. I fix one thing and another thing pops up. She's been this one's been fun, I'll tell you. This is what happens when you get a 40-year-old saw that didn't have, you know what I mean, it wasn't maintained properly and all that stuff, and you have to go through and iron out all the bugs, you know what I mean. These vintage saws are cool, but you got to get used to fixing them. It's just one problem after another, and eventually after you fix everything, you're good to go. Cut wood, you know what I mean. But it's kind of comes with the territory, I guess. So yeah, there we go. I think I'm gonna have half my wood cut just from testing a couple of saws. You know what I mean? Trying to get a couple of builds finished. I'm gonna end up having half of this wood cut. That's all right. We're getting there. You know what I mean? The Homelite's running pretty good. I just got to figure out what that intermittent thing is, and then it got worse the hotter it got. So that tells me I think it's spark plug or coil related. It's just when I pulled the fuel cap off, I could see, you can see the air bubbles on top of the fuel. It might be sucking some of those in, especially whenever I get into a weird position with the saw, like straight up and down and stuff. I don't know. I'm suspicious I just don't have the fuel filter all the way down, tucked in at the bottom of the tank. I'm suspicious that's all it is. So, yeah. That should be an easy fix. And then I'll figure out this spark thing. You know what I mean? The spark plug looks like it's still the original plug, so it could be the spark plug. It's old. It's very old. So anyway, hey, I hope you enjoyed this little one. Catch you on the next one. Later.